Crumbaker. We have Stacy Crumbaker, my sister. We have Char Costantino, the mother. And we are coming at you for our first episode of The Mix-Up. So we thought it would be a good idea. We all have very different personalities and different opinions and thought process on real estate, how real estate's done, different things in the real estate industry, and just things in our community that sometimes we just have different opinions on. And we thought it'd be a good idea, instead of giving different videos upon our different opinions, having one video where we can mix things up a little bit and make everybody think and maybe learn things that we didn't necessarily know before. Stacy, Char, say what's up to everybody.
Hi, I'm excited to be here. It's going to be interesting to talk about some of these subjects with my brother and my mother. It's hard to say what to expect in this situation.
I love it. Well, today we're going to start, our first topic is pricing your home in 2020. And we have Char here. I don't know if you know a lot about her, but she is a matriarch in our industry, in our area, and she does a lot. She takes a lot of listings a year, and Stacy and myself don't take as many listings as Char, but we still have different strategies to get homes sold. So, you know, Char, I'm gonna let you start with this. You know, pricing your home in 2020. You know, what advice would you give to sellers with market conditions and things that are going on?
I think, not that I think, I know, because I've been practicing real estate for over 30 years, so I know how it goes. So you can start in different places to get what you want, but the best return on your investment is to go big and price it according to the market and weigh out your competition and make sure that you have the best location, the best price, and you know, the home is in really good condition so that you can actually present the home to get it to show the best it can online to get that high dollar. So pricing is important. It's probably the key to getting your home sold today.
Well, I mean, from a buyer's agent standpoint, because that's a majority of the business I do, you know, I feel like when you work with a good agent that represents you on the buyer side, and you come across a property that if you're experienced and you know your market, you know your area, and you know that it's priced low, and you know that it's going to be very popular on the market, it's going to attract a lot of buyers, that means it's going to start a bidding war, and it's going to keep going higher and higher and higher. Now, when listing agents start low, I have to say, there really is a strategy behind that. Sometimes, you know, sellers think their home is worth more than it really is, so they want a higher price point. But at the end of the day, if you're working with a good buyer's agent, they're gonna know that if it's too high, it's not gonna really comp. And if it doesn't comp, it's not gonna appraise. So, you know, there's so many different ways of thought on this. I think if I were more of a listing agent, I would probably guide my sellers to go low, to start low and go up. Now, a lot of sellers are kind of scared to do that. They'd be scared to do that. But in my opinion, I would say start low, go up. I actually spoke to a buyer, potential new buyers over the weekend. I met them at one of our listings. And if they put their home up a year ago, they listed it on a Friday, they sold it on a Monday. And they listed it way low, and they actually ended up getting, I think, multiple offers, like 10 offers, and it actually exceeded their expectations of what they originally wanted to list it at. So with that being said, there's something to be, you know, there's something smart about pricing starting low, in my opinion.
I can see it going both ways. I sold a property last year in Marina Del Rey, and my philosophy has always been kind of what Stacy mentioned with our sellers. It's really hard to convince a seller to list lower than market value for the opportunity to get multiple offers to possibly get a higher value than they even had possible in their mind. And strategy does work. It's just trying to get over that mental side of it. And me personally, I was the opposite. I know what my strategy is, but for some reason when I listed my property, I listed it for as high as I possibly could, and it was on the market for almost 3 months. I did get 8 offers on it, and I ended up ultimately getting the price that I wanted, But I always do think back, if I could have listed lower, could I have done higher?
I think it's different though. So I think that when you're pricing a home, you really have to look at location. You know, where your condo was. You know, it's not in this market. So it depends on location. It depends on the general price point. I mean, if we're talking like homes over $1 million, I don't think you can, you know, really play that game.
In this market?
In this market,
Okay.
yeah. But I think that, you know, homes between, I don't know, 4 and 6, I think that and location, I think you could do that. Also, I think it depends on, you know, the state of the home. You know, if you've got a home that's in pretty bad shape, I don't think you can really do that.
I'm going to butt in here a little bit because I think my clientele, they're downsizing. So their home has been their home for 20, 30 years, right? So they're needing to kind of come to a reality check to see how their competition is holding up, because there might be some improvements, there might be some remodeling, there might be some upgrading that they would have to do, but do they want to invest in doing those things to sell to get top dollar? Or are they going to sell it as is, hoping that the buyer is going to come in and make all those changes on their own dollar with their own taste?
That brings up a whole different topic. The topic of, do you do some of these improvements to hopefully get your money back out of it and then some? Like, is it going to increase the value of your home? Again, only way to answer that is to go back and talk to a professional realtor who's been doing this a long time, because some realtors, I've heard horror stories about sellers having a realtor come in and tell them they have to do this and this and this and that in order to get this price. And half the time they don't need to do all that stuff because they're not going to get their money back. You know, I mean, maybe small things here and there, but doing some of these big, you know, upgrades and renovations doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get that back in the price.
No, I agree. And the time frame that it takes to get all this done, you sometimes has to start 6 months ahead. A lot of people don't have that time. But I really do think that knowing the market, I mean, it's doing your homework. I mean, it's not like you're going to sit down and go, oh, well, let's average. Well, you know, sometimes it's not about average. Sometimes you really do need to go deep into the homework. Like, what did your neighbor's home sell for 3 months ago? What did the house across the street sell, you know, last, you know, week, and then now is
and what did they look like?
And what did they look like, so that we can really kind of put some nuts and bolts to the equation instead of just going average this and average that. I think clients want to know. They come to us because they want answers, specific answers. They don't want a range. They could easily get that on Zillow, and Zillow's not always right, you know, and they're off on that tangent, right? So I think the professional needs to really show the clients that it really does take some deep thinking and evaluation and really being in the business as long as I have. I've seen 1 million homes, and I can tell you exactly what they need to do without spending a lot of money.
Well, that goes back to like the whole Zillow thing. When you have people say, well, Zillow's estimated at that time, my response to that is, when was the last time Zillow was inside your home?
Right.
You know, it's like they weren't.
That's so true.
You know?
And that's what's hard, because people want to price their home to what mass information tells them, and whether you're on Zillow, Homelight, Realtor.com, I can go down a whole list of names, they will give you a range of what your home's worth, and even as a seller myself, you feel like that's what you deserve. And you're right, they haven't been in your home, and that's not necessarily the true value of what your home can be sold for. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. But I also think when you're talking about comps just now, and talking about comps from 3 months ago and the home being sold, you know, that's another agent that sold another property on the street. Who's to say that their strategy was great? You know, like, could they have gotten more for their seller? You know, did they leave money on the table as well? And I feel like that's where experience in the market over a long period of time, you can create a better strategy for a new seller on the same street by representing them differently, whether you're going like what Stacy and I talk about of going lower, or Char trying to set, you know, price per square foot records in different neighborhoods, which you usually do.
I do. I mean, in fact, because it's individual. It's an individual home which has improvements, or it has a pool, or, you know, it has a mountain view. And I mean, there's so many different compartments to pricing that sometimes you have to really evaluate it on a scale, but I really feel that you can zero in on price. And I like your point, Stacy. I mean, I try to educate my clients on pricing in a range where we attract the highest amount of clients at one time. And we have to do it by having great photos. We have to do it by pricing it in a great price. It's going to attract a lot of interest, but all of that does come down to you got to know what the comps are, and you have to know your market.
Let me throw a question out of both of you. Okay, so now that we've talked about, in all reality, pricing your home at fair market value, under market value, or above market value, how do you know? Is it your seller that you have to evaluate? Is it the home that you have to judge on? At what point do you start talking to your seller, hey, this is the right strategy for you?
Well, I think, like I said before, it really depends on the area, the location that it's in. It depends on, the upgrades. It depends on the general average price point. I mean, you can do a strategy at a certain price point, but you can't do it for another. So I think it just kind of all depends.
And I think you said the 4 to 6 is more.
That's what I think. But
okay, anything above 6 you feel should be listed around market value or higher?
Oh, I don't know. It's a hard one to say.
Well,
okay.
I have to say, I'm but in a little bit. So I went on a listing presentation last week, and I gave them what my opinion was on value and all the reasons why I felt the price was a good price to start with. And our goal is to market to the point where maybe over market. I mean, I don't know if that's even a technical word, but we launch huge. So we really put it out there big to attract all that interest. But my client said, Char, we're going to try it with an agent and list it for more. And so far it's been on the market 67 days. So I know they're not going to reduce because I think it's their pride, because they felt that agent gave them good information. But I know that in 3 weeks when it expires and it's off the market, they'll be calling me because they realize what I did tell them was really not what they wanted to hear at the moment, but it was the reality.
And how do you make a determination though? So let's say I do talk to 2 agents and one agent tells me, hey, I can get $10,000, $15,000 more than what you told me. I mean, to me, as a seller, that sounds like a pretty good deal. The way I look at it is maybe they're doing something or they have something else in their hat that you didn't know about and they're able to create $15,000 more value. Is that where your skill set, your professionalism, your longevity in the market come into play? Because a lot of these agents just aren't that skilled and they're telling people what they want to hear, knowing that they're going to come back for price reductions later?
Yeah. So they talk them into, the price point, which I guess is attractive, and they feel like that's the number. And then the reality of it, that it didn't happen. And so what went wrong? It probably wasn't anything the agent has done. It's probably more likely the price that it started. And once you start at a high price and you then even change agents, you still have that wear and tear on the market.
Yeah.
And you don't have that first.
Well, it's
fresh
documented.
Yeah.
The timeline is the timeline. You can't make that go away.
Right.
Putting bad dashes on your record.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. It's always important to talk to a professional who has experience in the market that can give you a good number and bank on that number. Not necessarily that that's the final number, but we're going to create an energy and an attraction. We're going to launch, and we're going to hopefully get the offer that you want over multiple interests. So it takes a process and a strategy, like you said, and each home is different and unique. So I feel like there's much more to pricing in this new year than what the average agent would probably know.
Would you guys also say that trust comes into play here? Because if I'm correct, if you're trying to convince your seller to list under market value or $10,000 from what Joe Schmo offered him to list their property, I feel like being a seller, picking or choosing the right agent in the market, trusting in their ability to sell your home with their skill set and what they know with market conditions, that the price they're giving them is something trustworthy that they can hold on to.
If you don't trust your realtor, then you don't have the right realtor.
Well, you'd be surprised because a lot of people don't trust the realtors. They say buyers are liars, and listing sellers, they just want to get their home sold. They're not pervy to one agent or another. They want to get their home sold at the highest price. And the ones that use agents over and over and over are had good experiences, but still.
Yeah, well, most of my business is referral. So it's based on people have already trusted, have already worked with me over the years. They refer me clients and they refer me their friends and their family. So, you know, I would say that most of my business is referral based. So that trust, I know, plays an important piece because that's why I get the phone call.
Yeah, well, because you've done this long enough where you've seen markets come and go in different
And I have a track record.
And,
I have a good track record and reviews that's, you know, that actually speak for me.
Yeah. Well, I think this is a good topic to discuss
Nice
today.
wrap.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining the Mix Up. We'll be back at it next week to discuss and debate more on some new topics for you guys. See you guys.
Yeah.
Cheers.